Would you agree with my introduction that Nigerians do not really remember much about President Tinubu's inaugural speech, apart from these three words: subsidy is gone? That's what stands out clear in the minds of Nigerians from May 29, 2023.
No, it depends on the angle you are looking at it from. The fuel subsidy has been the major albatross most of the Nigerians before the emergence of President Tinubu. What he is able to do is to ensure that the country is stable, is to ensure that the country, generate more resources, is to ensure that our security architecture is rigid, is to ensure that, a lot of, economic recalibration is done. So most Nigerians, it depends on the sector you are looking at, they do remember a lot about his speech, but subsidy is the major issue for most of the Nigerians that affect both the downtrodden, the middle class, and the riches, the upper class, so to say. So we can say that a lot of them remember what Senator, President Tinubu speech entails. So most of Nigeria remember, and because he's walking the talk, he's doing the needful. So there's no much, uprising or any issue to discuss about his speech.
How can you describe President Tinubu's first 12 months, which will expire tomorrow? Let's call it that. Can you please describe it in one word? When you think about everything, that the president has gone through, what Nigerians have gone through, what the president has achieved, what Nigeria has achieved, which one word comes to mind?
Anyway, like I said earlier, we have to, the issue of Nigeria is multidimensional. A lot of multi-layer issues that he is able to resolve. Let's take the USD, for instance. People, before his emergence, a lot of, even a pound to a naira is almost about 2,500. A dollar to a naira is about 2,000, or is about 1,900. Now, the market is uniform. The CBN governor is able to do a lot of, calculation and, macroeconomic and, the monetary policy that affects the lives of people. For instance, people like us who needs to change naira to dollar to pay our children's school fees. A lot has happened for us. In terms of, security, it's very hard for you to see that there is a bombing here and there. Though we still have some glitches, we still have some, things to do in terms of security. But, a year is not enough for a president to invest and implement his national security strategy. So a lot has been happening in terms of that. Second year, you'll be shocked about what's going to happen. So I believe he has done incredibly well in his first year.
So Dr. Shino, what will happen in the second year?
Sorry?
What will happen in the second year? Can you shock us? What will happen in the second year?
A lot is going to happen, KB. I can assure you. For instance, most in oil and gas sector, two refineries will be fully functioning. Port Harcourt and Kaduna will be extremely functioning. A lot of investment has been attracted.
We had Port Harcourt was going to be ready was it February? Then we had April, then we had May, and all that. Is it now 2024? No more 2023?
Baby, come on. You and I know that this is mechanical. They need to put a lot of things in place. Don't forget that refinery has been abandoned for more than 15 years. A lot of issues is, popping up and the rest of it, and they are trying to fix it. So look at the budget of Ministry of Petroleum. Look at what they are budgeting for that. Even in gas, this is the first time that the president will separate Ministry of Petroleum from gas.
You talked about the fact that ministers are being held accountable. You say for the first time, you're talking about the fact that it has improved security. I think you were also saying that the exchange rate is improving. Is that what you were saying, sir? You talked about
absolutely, absolutely. But I'm not speaking for. I'm not speaking. Exchange rate is depend on volatility of the foreign exchange market, not the Nigerian market alone.
All right.
It depends on how you are able to sustain that trend.
Well, basically, everything is better, and are Nigerians better off? Looking at all these things you've said, are Nigerians better off today than they were on May 29, 2020? 3.
The mistake can be that we continue to make is that we are mentioning a guy that just assumed an office just less than 12 months.
No. I'm saying based on the things you've said which are working. You talked about exchange rate. You talked about security. You talked about the economy. You talked about agriculture. You talked about ministerial accountability and performance. You talked about technology. And I'm saying, look at all these things, are Nigerians better off, since, you've said there are improvements here, are Nigerians better off today than they were on May 29, 2023?
Absolutely. Nigerians are better off. And that's why I channeled some of the conversation to the governors. Nobody is owing, even you press are not owing the governors accountable.
Right,
the money
please,
you are getting 10 billion before, you are getting 50
Yeah, please hold the thought here. We have Yunusa Tanko, a spokesperson for Labour Party, a spokesperson for the Labour Party's Presidential Campaign Council, or the Peter Obi Campaign Organization, in the 2023 elections. Dr. Yunusa Tanko, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Very well, thank you. You're welcome. Dr. Ibrahim Osinowo, Dr. Osinowo, please keep your video on because we are streaming live. Dr. Osinowo, your colleague, counterpart from the All Progressives Congress, says that Nigerians are better off today than they were on May 29, 2023, before the president gave his inaugural speech. Do you agree?
I'm so sorry I have to laugh. I mean, even before this regime took over, there were pandemonium as regard to the issue of dwelling economy of the country, the issue of insecurity, the humongous issue of corruption, decay in the system, neglect of the local government sector, all has culminated into the insecurity that we face. That was at that time. If you raise it to, like, say, that particular pain and pang that was inflicted on the Nigerian people based on lies and propaganda was just 10%. What we have today is like 60 to 70% of that pain and pang added up. So what you have is a pro-max pain and pang. It is laughable if we look at ourselves as Nigerians and say that we are better off when you can only buy a couple of tomato at probably 5,000 naira in Lagos, or pepper, and then we say we are better off. Or when we can now compare the prices of a bag of rice, which cost about 4,000 or 3,005, the time of Jonathan era, now we are buying it at 85,000 naira, and we say we are better off. If you can look at a bag of gari and say that we are better off, and you look at the issue of buying of corn that the common man on the street eats, and you say you're better off, honestly, that will be self-serving and very insulting to the Nigerian people, quite honestly.
Okay, Dr. Shiro.
Anyway, my dear friend and brother, Yunusa Tanko, of course, I commend, your effort in terms of, oppositioning, what the government is doing. I can give it to you and Mr. Obi that you have made opposition, voice a little bit loud. But, when we are mixing, electoral defeat, probably let me just use that to justify, or we are allowing that to override our reality in terms of economic impact. These are a set of guys that is complaining about Buhari. He didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't do this and that. But now, let's discuss the fact. If he's saying that the food prices, blah, 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 is increasing and the rest of that, can you measure what the food prices is in Ghana, in Cameroon, in Ethiopia? Measure it with what we are paying in Nigeria. Everything has seasons. Those things, if you listen to what the minister, I'm sure the opposition will not listen. And my dear friend, Dr. Yunusa Tanko, should listen to what the ministers are saying so that they will be able to pick one or two things to format their discussion, or opposition aids. Listen to what he's saying. Agricultural products, food, services are increasing globally.
What's your assessment of President Bola Tinubu's performance in the area of food security?
Okay. I listened to my brother Dr. Osinowo saying that you compare Ethiopia and other African countries as regard to their prices index and all. It's amazing to tell you, sir, that I am a Nigerian. I care more about Nigeria. Doesn't mean that probably if certain countries are doing something wrong, I would follow suit. I would rather do something that is good for my people, then they can learn from it. Okay? And so that aside, with regard to the issue of scorecard for this particular administration, let me say, with all level of patriotism, the major problem that this particular regime has is the issue of legitimacy. The issue of legitimacy has made them to commit so much mistake with regard to whether they are qualified, the president was qualified to run for election, or probably that the people actually voted and the vote was counted as it ought to have been. Yes, all of those ones have gone under the bridge, but then because of that particular issue has made them to make a lot of mistakes and propaganda based on lies. Please, sir, every one of us, nothing about tribalism, but about the interests of the people. When you look back, are we as a country moving forward? We are still talking about electricity, we are still talking about food, we are still talking about water, we're still talking about education.
Okay, so Dr. Tanko, when you talk about the license, Dr. Osinowo, please enable your video and audio so we can see and hear you.
Come again?
Yeah, Dr. Tanko, when you're talking about propaganda and lies, can you give us an example of what you're talking about, please?
Of course, I can give you. Now, for example, Ab initio, the first thing that happened was that the government was talking about removing the issue of subsidy. But actually, the former president, Muhammad Buhari, has actually removed the issue of subsidy. So they were playing to the gallery, thinking that probably it is a general opinion that subsidy must be removed so that they can get attraction and reception from the people. Unfortunately, it boomeranged.